All right, we have the front wheel on. Now let's do the handlebars. In order to attach your handlebars, you're going to need two tools. You need a 4mm hex wrench and a 5mm hex wrench. Now we strongly urge you use a tool like this one here. This is a torque wrench, so you can get the bolts on good and tight. If you don't have a torque wrench, your bike does ship with a 4mm and a 5mm Allen key, just like this one here. But if you use this one to put on your handlebars, really make sure you get those bolts on as tight as you can get them, and then take your bike into a bike shop at some point soon. Ask them to use their torque wrench, tighten it up real quick, buy a water bottle from them, bring them a 6-pack, just something easy, should take them 1 second. So let's go ahead and put the handlebars onto the stem. Okay, the first step will be to take all 4 of these bolts out of the stem here so you can remove this piece. So you may be able to just use your fingers to take these out. If they are a little tight, this is where you can use your 4mm torque wrench or Allen key. Okay, just take the last bolt off here. And now we can just go ahead and take that piece away. And we're going to reach down and grab the handlebars and just rotate them up and into that position. Now before I attach anything, it's really important that we make sure that all of the cables, so that includes the cables that run into the frame as well as your front brake cable, all go around to the left side of the frame. So it's very important to make sure the cables are all on the left side of the frame. And now that they are, I'm going to take this piece, put it back on the stem, and I'm just going to put these bolts back in, just finger tight right now, because we need to do some adjustment to the handlebar position before we fully tighten. So just use your fingers, put all 4 bolts back into the stem. Okay, now we've got all 4 bolts back into the stem, and before we tighten them, there's 2 adjustments we want to make with the handlebars. The first is we want to make sure that they're centered. So I'll just slide this back and forth. You can see there's some grooves on the handlebars to let you know where the center line is. So that looks about right. So we have the handlebar centered. Now the next step is we want to make sure that the angle is correct. And you want to move it like this so that the brake levers are about at a 45-degree angle. That's just a comfort thing after you've been riding for a little bit. If you think you'd like the brake levers to be a little further up like that or further down, totally up to you, but you should start off at about a 45-degree angle. So we've got the handlebars centered and the brake levers at a 45-degree angle, and we've got all the cables running onto the left side of the frame. So now we're ready to tighten these bolts down all the way. So we'll use our torque wrench, and if you look on the stem, it tells you that the recommended torque is 7 to 8 Newton meters. So we're going to set our torque wrench to 7, and I'm going to tighten these bolts. When you're tightening the bolts, you don't want to do one bolt all the way. You want to do a little bit at a time and just work your way all around. And that way they're all equally tightened. So my torque wrench will let me know when it's fully tightened. There's one. Okay, the handlebars are on. All right, the last step with the handlebars is just to make sure that they're straight on the bike. So what we need to do is rotate them around on the stem to make them straight. But before we do that, we just need to make sure that these 2 bolts are loose enough. So you can just get them finger tight. They may already be. So if they're a little tight, you can loosen them either with your fingers or with a 5mm hex key. But get those loose, and then what I'm going to do is just squeeze the wheel with my legs as I turn this around. So now the handlebars are nice and straight in line with my front wheel, and now I'm ready to tighten up these 2 bolts again. So again, this uses a 5mm hex wrench or torque wrench, and if you look on the stem, the torque setting for these bolts is 8 to 9 Newton meters. So I've got my torque wrench set to 8. And just as with the handlebars, you want to do them at a little bit at a time each. You don't want to tighten one bolt all the way. So we'll get these on. There we go. And the handlebars are all done.